Hi guys, welcome to the daily roundup for clients. Just quickly in East Asia Pacific, we've had 28 or 29 developments plus the Myanmar report. The major issue that I covered today for East Asia Pacific is workers are threatening nationwide protests in Indonesia, where several worker groups, including the Confederation of Indonesian Trade Unions, have threatened a whole nationwide protest against the rising prices of goods, such as particularly cooking oil, as it leads into the festive season. But what's interesting is that the trade unions basically given a 7-day ultimatum for authorities to address these demands, and that's the main issue that we assess today and give advice to our clients on. Obviously, as I mentioned, 28 other issues. The other key thing to note is I'm in Myanmar, and I mean, obviously that's a significant report each day, but clashes have continued between the Tatmadaw, which is the Myanmarese military, and the Kachin Independence Army, that along with the Arakan Army is one of the main armed ethnic organisations, and they're a seriously kitted out entity. So the problem for Myanmar now is for the military government, unlike the Thai military government, the Myanmar military government aren't competent managers. They're not. They don't have public support, and now they've divided the country into three. One being them and their sympathisers, their employees, and the families of them. One is the various armed states that they've made enemies out of over the last sort of half a century, and now everybody else in the country that isn't a part of either the military or the armed ethnic organisation states, which are predominantly on the border. So the big, deep hole in Myanmar is getting deeper and hotter. Gents, I'm going to have to excuse myself. I'm involved in some advice for a client on some matters in Indonesia. So, Bhargav, I'll hand it over to you and for Uday to carry on with South Asia, and I'll need to disappear. Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Certainly. So over to you there. I hear a lot of protests coming up in Sri Lanka. Any inputs on that?
Yeah, Bhargav. So for South Asia today, we covered 12 events. And yes, as you said, the necessities event is the anti-government protest in Sri Lanka. So another party, the National People's Party, protested in Colombo district yesterday. And there have been a wave of anti-government protests, mainly by opposition parties and leftist groups, against the government's failure to address the economic and power crisis in the country. So we've been seeing more and more protests happening. And Bhargav, I want to ask you a question regarding. So the Rajapaksa government came to power in 2019 on a security platform. This was after the Easter Sunday church bombings. And in the 2020 parliamentary elections, the Rajapaksas consolidated their power and they've been strengthening their position. So they've been with overwhelming support on a security platform, but they haven't been able to address the economic woes that have been plaguing Sri Lanka for some time. So how long do you think they can keep campaigning or doing as they do before there will be some sort of reckoning?
There, if I do not call this situation grim, I wouldn't be too honest with the situation or my assessment. The economic situation has gone from bad to worse. This is going to make matters worse at the ground level, especially with people who aren't really in corporate sort of jobs, and they will resort to migration, which has already started into Tamil Nadu in India, and they may be going elsewhere like they did during the war years in the previous decade. Now, it is true that they came up on a security platform. In fact, strongman image was what fueling them to the power. And Rajapaksa brothers, especially Gotabaya Rajapaksa, was the current president, was a defense secretary during the war years up until 2009 when LTTE or the Tamil rebels were defeated in the north. And the current prime minister, Mahinda Rajapaksa, was a president back then. So this decisive leadership image, what they have, is they're failing themselves in terms of taking harsh, brash decisions by cancelling all fertilizers or banning all fertilizers from Sri Lanka. Such abrupt policies are likely to create tensions at the ground level, especially with precarious economic situation brought on by multiple factors, starting with fiduciary mismanagement or debt reconstruction or restructuring, which they proposed with China, which failed apparently. Now, all of these factors contribute to instability in the political landscape, as well as it's going to affect the security paradigm as well. Because with growing protests, growing political instability, it will give vacuum or space for dissident groups, including Tamils who are operating as sleeper cells or through the Colombo underworld. They're going to see this as an opportunity. And I can't really underline the importance of maintaining the security posture enough, especially after 2019 Easter Sunday bombings, which caught everybody by surprise, even the intelligence agency, who were warned by external intelligence agencies from India that this is going to happen. So the complacency may actually cause further consternation in the security paradigm as a whole. So they need to watch out, and businesses need to take note of all of these developments in the mid to long term, especially if they're considering investments. And in the short term, they need to ensure their investments are secure, and not to mention all their operational issues at the ground level with growing protests. So with that, Uday, can we pass it on to Middle East? Unless
Yes,
you
we
have...
can. Yes, we can, Bhargav.
Okay. Thank you, Uday.